What is up, my dudes? Today I'm doing a brake job on my 2010 Toyota Sequoia. We do a lot of towing and a lot of mountain driving with this thing, so the front brake rotors have taken quite a bit of abuse and they're warped. So when you hit the brake pedal, especially at higher speeds, the whole vehicle rattles pretty bad or shakes. So that's what we're doing, swapping those out. And what else? We're also getting ready to go on a trip, so I'm just going to check the oil and swap out the windshield wiper blades, because the ones that are on there they make a ton of noise. They're like rah, rah, rah. They make a ton of noise when you flip them on. So also going to be swapping that out. I know that can be quite a pain in the ass to do, believe it or not. It should be a very easy thing, but a lot of times it isn't, and it can vary from vehicle to vehicle. So I'm going to show you what style clip is on here and how I swap it out. So without further ado, let's get after it. All right, so something I like to do before I before I get this tire up off the ground with the jack is just take my 1/2-inch breaker bar and just break all the lug nuts free. That way I'm not trying to do it while the tire's off the ground. So this is a size 22, it's a metric. So I'm just gonna use the breaker bar just to get them started. All right, now that they're cracked, all you need, guys, is just enough to get this wheel up off the ground. So if you can spin it, that's enough. Okay, this is not a video on safety at all. Do your own research, follow your specific vehicle's instructions in the owner's manual. But always make sure you set your e-brake and chalk your tires before you get underneath the vehicle at all. All right, super important. You doing your brakes ain't worth your life. Things can happen, especially if you're in there trying to get the caliper loose or something like that. Sometimes you gotta really get in there and, you know, crank down on things, and you don't want your jack slipping. You don't want the car rolling and causing the jack to slip. So it's happened to me before. Use jack stands, set your e-brake, and chalk your tires. All right, so now that my e-brake is set, my tires are chalked, my lug nuts are cracked, got it jacked up off the ground. Now I just throw my 22 on my drill, which is dead. On the verge of. This is the first time I've done the brakes on this car, so hopefully all is good. All right, so we got the tire off. Now the first order of business is going to be getting the caliper off. Now, a lot of times when you first jump in here, you might make the mistake of removing these bolts here, but don't do that. You don't need to remove those ones. You need to remove this one here and this one here. Those are the bolts that hold the caliper to this whatever you want to call it, control arm. And that's what you need to undo to get this free, to get it loose. So let's go ahead and take those out. All right, y'all, so this is a 17. Be very careful of this brake line right here. Okay, so one thing you need to identify is if you have a rubber hose leading into your caliper. If you do, like I do here, then what you need to do is find out where this mounts to the right here and undo this bolt. That way when you remove this caliper and this is all hanging loose and free, it's not hanging by this hard line here. It's going to be hanging by this rubber line. If you hang it, the weight of this caliper by this hard line here, it's just going to bend it and kink it, and then you're effed and you have to go get your brakes done professionally somewhere. So let's go ahead and take that one out. All right, you guys, so this is a size 12. You don't have to use a 1/2 inch drive like I am. I just know that a lot of these brake parts take a lot of heat and dirt and road grime, and a lot of stuff in here can be seized. So, not seized, but stuck. So I like to put a little extra muscle on it with these heavier wrenches. One thing I like to practice is take the nut or the bolt and just put it back where you got it so you don't lose it. Now we can go ahead and take this caliper off. Actually, we got one more obstacle here, guys. Okay, this little, what is this? Some kind of electrical line for a sensor. Just go ahead and take the flathead. Open up that clip so you can release that as well. There's another clip here. Might as well just undo both of them. Free that line up. Now this caliper can come down. All right, guys, I'm gonna go get a bungee because even after freeing up all that stuff, the end result of the weight is on that line. So I'm gonna get a bungee, hook it through the bolt hole, hook it up here somewhere, and just keep the weight off that hard line. So I have the bungee wrapped around the top of the shock tower and hooked back down to the caliper. If you have the right size bolt, you can stick a bolt in one of these threaded holes here, and it'll just a couple turns, it'll just pop this thing right off. I don't have that bolt with me. A lot of times they are corroded on here. So if you are replacing the rotor and you know you got the right one, you can smack it up here, but I don't recommend it because you never know. You might get this sucker off, realize you got the wrong part, might have to put things back together, and then you just went and put a big old dent in your rotor. So don't hit it up here. Now the next fun part is getting the pads out of the caliper. It's usually pretty simple and straightforward. Alright, so we gotta remove this pin. First, we're gonna remove this clip. Pay attention to how the clip comes off because you're going to need to put it back on that same way. So it sits in there like this. Okay, then this clip comes out this way and this way. Now this pin can come out. That pin can come out. One pad out. 2 pads out. Okay. All right. So those pads, meat-wise, look pretty good, and they're fairly even. So that's a good sign. The caliper is working symmetrically. Hopefully this will work, guys. Normally you should use like a C-clamp, or I have this other tool that I made for doing this, and I just can't find it right now. And for some reason I don't have any C-clamps, so I'm trying to use these clamps instead. You're depressing the pistons. These are the pistons coming out, and you have to depress them back into the caliper in order for the newer, thicker discs, rotors, and thicker, newer pads to fit back into this. So I'm just alternating clamps and adjusting the pressure each time as I go. So now, go ahead and just clean some of this stuff up with some brake cleaner. Alright, you guys, so check it out. Very simple. Just put this back on like so. Make sure nothing is making contact anywhere with anything. Which, check it out. Listen to that. It's hitting the shroud. I'm going to throw these lug nuts on, just give it a spin real quick. Make sure these lug nuts hold it in place. Make sure this thing can spin freely without hitting anything. Because if it's rubbing on the shroud, I'm going to have to bend that shroud. Because that would be very, very, very annoying and cause damage. So let's just go ahead and slap that sucker on there right quick. Alright, now that the lug nuts are holding this securely in place, and I know I'm not accidentally knocking it out of balance with my hands, let's give this a spin. Alright, check it out. Now that I don't have the human error, it spins freely without hitting that shroud, so that's good. Okay, I'm going to leave those lug nuts on until we are ready to put the tire on. So that's it for the rotor. Just put it on basically. At the end, before we're done, we will clean this off with brake cleaner. But for now, we're ready to put in some pads. So let's see, that is going like that. So you pretty much just slide this puppy in there, like so. Make sure you get the orientation on these right. Alright, I have a sneaking suspicion we're going to have to open this caliper up a little more, but let's give it a shot, see if we can get it on there. Awesome, it looks like we might be able to get it on. Just gonna try to get this bolt back in here just to hold things in place while I get everything situated. Okay, so I just got that bolt right there just started, just to hold things in place for a minute. Before we move any further, we don't want to forget that these pins need to go back in. All right, so that's why it's really important to take a picture with your phone how these clips go back in, because I got it figured out by trial and error, but definitely can get a bit confusing. So that's it, y'all. Check it out. New pads, new rotor, new pins. That's how it goes. So now I'm just gonna tighten that back up, put that other bolt in, just reassembly at this point. Make sure you guys follow your manufacturer's recommended torque specs for those. I don't have them handy. I don't know what they are. But these are brakes. From a safety standpoint, pretty smart to torque those down properly. I'm gonna put my 1/2-inch breaker bar on it. Make sure I get that extra little bit. Right. Tighten this bad boy back up. Now, if you remember, we got to put this little electrical sensor line back into its clips. There we go. All right, locked and secured. All right, you guys, now I like to take a clean rag and some brake cleaner and just clean these rotors off. Very important to keep the rotor really clean while you're putting all this stuff together. Alright, you guys, so I just get them, first I just get them finger tight, give them a couple turns with the wrench, then I will drop the jack so I get a little bit of weight on the tire. Just about there. It's still supported by the jack, but not spinning freely anymore, but not full weight on it. And then I go ahead and I give it its final torque with the breaker bar in a star pattern. Now it's always good to go around a couple times, because you might think that one's really tight, but then you get this one tight, this one tight, this one tight, this one tight, and then all of a sudden these ones that you first tightened are somewhat loose again. So keep going in a star pattern a couple times to make sure everything's torqued down properly. And again, go with your manufacturer's recommended torque specs. I don't know what they are. If I find out what they are before posting this video, then I will put them in the description. But that's it, you guys. All right, y'all, so this is what I used for the whole job, okay? 1/2-inch breaker, 1/2-inch ratchet, 1/2-inch wobbler, which you may or may not need. The only reason I needed it is because I was using the drill and the brake line was in the way. But screwdriver, hammer, some clamps, and some brake cleaner. That's it for the whole job. So for sockets, we got a 22 for the wheels, we have a 17 for getting the caliper free, and then a 12 for getting the brake line free. And that's it. So these are the blades that I got. For the passenger side, it's a 22-inch. For the driver's side, which I already swapped out, it's a 26-inch. And this may vary depending on what blades you currently have on here, but the ones that I have on, you release this button in the front and then they push back and just slide right out like that. Now, super important to be really careful with this arm. If you let go of this, it's spring loaded. This is metal. It'll come down and it will break your windshield. I've done it before. All right, so with this particular one, this top piece that says Rain-X on it has an arrow right here. Literally just kind of squeeze that and pull it up and out. Let's see if I can get it. The other one came out easy. Ah, there we go. Okay, now this sucker goes on this way, literally. So this notch here is gonna hook on this notch over here. See the cutout for it that matches that cutout? So this piece just goes in, slide that back, and snap it up in like that. Pretty simple. And then this particular brand has a cover over the blade, so you need to remove that, and boom, voila, that's it. That's gonna do it for this video. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, this is a 2010 Toyota Sequoia 5.7 liter, but these techniques can be applied to pretty much any Toyota. I'm sure they can apply to a lot of other cars too. But thank you for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one. Peace. Oh yeah, bonus, one more thing I'm gonna do. We need to break the brakes in. I know that sounds weird, it sounds dumb, but it's true. We need to get the brakes hot, we need to get them seated properly, and we need to burn some things off, heat some things up, and get them prepped. So I'm gonna hop in the car now, take you for a drive, show you what I do to break in new brakes. First thing you're gonna wanna do when you just switched out brakes and rotors, even if you just switched out pads, anytime you mess with that piston on the caliper, you're gonna lose brake pressure in your pedal. And if you just jump in your car and take off, you're gonna hit something when the first time you go to use your brakes. So first thing you're gonna do is get in here and just depress the brake pedal a couple times until you feel that pressure build back up in the pedal again. Once you do, you're good to start going again. Okay, now from there, what we want to do with the brake pads now is just get things hot. So we're gonna do a couple controlled starts and stops. You don't want to be on a busy road with lots of cars, because we do need to apply really firm brake pressure, come to pretty sudden stops, and you don't want to be locking up the brakes with somebody behind you and causing an accident. So make sure you're on a open road with no other traffic, okay? That's really important. So we're gonna do a couple controlled starts and stops, starting at like 20 to 30 miles an hour, slowing down to 5 to 10. And then we're gonna do a couple from 30 to 40 miles an hour, slowing down to 5 to 10, and then a couple from 40 to 50 miles an hour, slowing down to 5 to 10. And what we're doing is basically just getting the brakes hot. We're transferring some film from the ceramic brake pads to the discs. Really important thing to do is, notice I said we're going to slow down to 5 to 10 miles an hour. We're not going to come to a complete stop, because think about it. You go and get your new rotors and pads really hot, and then you come to a 100% complete stop. All that pressure from the caliper and the piston squeezing on your brand new heated up rotor, you're going to put different levels. You're going to squeeze indents into your new rotor. So you're going to have variable disc thickness. So it's really important to keep the car moving. We're going to do sudden slowdowns, but not complete stops, okay? All right, let's get it. And first and foremost, let's check out the new blades. Oh, look at that. Silent. I love it. All right, so here we go. We're going to crawl up to about, like I said, about 20 to 30. Slow down. You should start to smell the brake pads. Busy road now, so I'm just gonna try to keep the car rolling while I look for oncoming traffic. Good to go. So whenever you do approach a stop sign or oncoming traffic, try to keep the car rolling. So now we've done 4 stops from 20 to 30 down to 10. So now we're gonna get it going a little faster. Again, making sure there's no one behind you. Got a car coming up on me, so I'm just gonna turn off onto this residential street. Be careful doing this in neighborhoods, guys. You don't want to speed. Alright, so I've done 3 to 4 stops, rolling stops. At the 20 to 30 mile an hour range, I've done 3 to 4 rolling stops. At the 30 to 40 mile an hour range, now I'm going to try to get up in the 50 to 60 range on the way back home. And just keep repeating that process. And once you get four or so stops in the 50 to 60 range, good to go. And again, try to prevent coming to a complete stop with your new brakes. So again, I just came up to traffic right there and I kept the car rolling the whole time. So it's going to make it difficult to do this last one, but I am coming up on my street again. Hopefully I can just turn without stopping. right, y'all, so obviously you do have to deal with the public, with other people, traffic, those kinds of things, and it's pretty much never an ideal situation breaking in your new brakes, but just do your best. Don't just hop out on the highway and just start driving like you normally would. Take these extra couple steps and you will have better success with your new brakes. All right, so I can really smell the new brakes now that I got out of the car, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want it, you know, glowing red, nothing crazy like that. You just want to get them heated up, break them in. All right, peace.